What's up, everyone? Welcome back to another day of ELA 1 with Mr. Williamson, your favorite class of the day. Let's take you right into it. I'm going to talk a little bit. With our quote of the day comes from a handsome, intelligent man that goes by Mr. W sometimes, Mr. Williamson himself. He says, make sure you're answering questions fully and listening to all directions. I'm starting to see a little bit of skimpy work in terms of not writing as much as I asked you or not following directions on how to do different things. So I want you to focus on locking in today and going forward in the future to make sure that you're completing assignments correctly and that you are getting full points and not getting points taken off. So pay attention to that. Step up, please. I know you can, so do it. It's going to bring us to our daily objective. It might sound a little funny, but it will make sense the more we go into the lesson. So I can explain Steinbeck's use. So the author, he uses these things: archetype, symbol, and illusion to describe Curly's wife. So we're going to read 4 pages today. That's it. Focusing primarily on one character, Curly's wife. The author uses archetype, symbol, and illusion to describe Curly's wife. So you're going to need to explain how he uses those 3 things to kind of give us a holistic picture of who she is. So today is going to look a little bit different than usual. It's going to be broken up into more videos. The first video, I'm just going to do all the reading at once, no questions. And then we're going to have 3 separate videos after the reading video to talk about archetype, to talk about symbol, and to talk about illusion. So if you're unsure of what any of those mean, that's okay. We are going to get into that more and cover it. And hopefully by the time you leave this lesson, do your exit ticket, those things will make very clear sense to you. Okay, everyone, so we're going to continue right into the reading. We're going to read our pages, and like I said, we'll have separate videos for the separate questions. So what I need you to do now is have your Of Mice and Men novel open to page 30. You are going to need to look back in your book for certain things, and remember that when you read with me, you become a better reader. So have it open to page 30. If you don't, go ahead and pause and make sure you have that open now. So our focus for these pages, again, about Curly's wife, I want you to ask yourself as we're reading, how does Curly's wife look and act? So kind of what is she doing? And then secondarily, how do George and Lenny respond to her? So in other words, what's kind of their reaction? How are they feeling? What do they say about her? So if you're in your novel, we're going to start about halfway down page 30 at Never Mind, Never Mind. We're going to reread a little bit of what we read at the end of last class. But we're starting at Never Mind, Never Mind. So if you recall from last time, George and Lenny had just met Curly, and he was kind of this very pugnacious character who said derogatory things. He was very aggressive. He kind of seemed like he wanted to fight Lenny because of his Napoleon complex, right? So what we're going to do today, as we read, get ready for the introduction of Curly's wife. And remember to focus on those things that we talked about. Never mind, says George. I'll tell you when. I hate that kind of guy. Look, Lenny, if you get in any kind of trouble, you remember what I told you to do? Lenny raised up on his elbow, his face contorted with thought. Then his eyes moved sadly to George's face. If I get in any trouble, you ain't gonna let me tend the rabbits. That's not what I meant. You remember where we slept last night down by the river? Yeah, I remember. Oh, sure, I remember. I go there and I hide in the brush. Hide till I come for you. Don't let nobody see you. Hide in the brush by the river. Say that over. Hide in the brush by the river. Down in the brush by the river. If you get in trouble. If I get in trouble. A brake screeched outside. A call came. Stable worker. Oh, stable worker. George said, say it over to yourself, Lenny, so you won't forget it. So here comes kind of the entrance of Curly's wife and kind of her description, so pay attention to it. Both men glanced up, for the rectangle of sunshine in the doorway was cut off. A girl was standing there looking in. She had full, rouged lips and wide-spaced eyes heavily made up. Her fingernails were red. Her hair hung in little rolled clusters like sausages. She wore a cotton house dress and red mules. Those are like heels, on the insteps of which were little bouquets of red ostrich feathers. "I'm looking for Curly," she said. Her voice had a nasal, brittle quality. George looked away from her and then back. He was in here a minute ago, but he went." "Oh!" She put her hand behind her back and leaned against the doorframe so that her body was thrown forward. "You're the new fellas that just come, ain't you?" Yeah." Lenny's eyes moved down over her body, and though she did not seem to be looking at Lenny, she brittled a little. She looked at her fingernails. "Sometimes Curly's in here," she explained. George said brusquely, "Well, he ain't now." "If he ain't, I guess I better look someplace else," she said playfully. Lenny watched her, fascinated. George said, "If I see him, I'll pass word that you was looking for him." She smiled archly and twitched her body. "Nobody can't blame a person for looking," she said. There were footsteps behind her going by. She turned her head. "Oh, hi, Slim," she said. Slim's voice came through the door. "Hi, good looking." "I'm trying to find Curly, Slim." "Well, you ain't trying very hard. I seen him going in your house." She was suddenly apprehensive. "Bye, boys," she called into the bunkhouse, and she hurried away. So now Curly's wife has exited the scene. George looked around at Lenny. "Jesus, what a tramp," he said. "So that's what Curly picks for a wife." "She's purty," said Lenny defensively. "Yeah, and she's sure hiding it. Curly got his work ahead of him. Bet she'd clear out for $20. Lenny still stared at the doorway where she had been. "Gosh, she was purty." He smiled admiringly. George looked quickly down at him, and then he took him by the ear and shook him. "Listen to me, you crazy bastard," he said fiercely. "Don't you even take a look at that bitch. I don't care what she says and what she does. I seen 'em poisoned before, but I never seen no piece of jailbait worse than her. You leave her be." Lenny tried to disengage his ear. I never done nothing, George." "No, you never. But when she was standing in the doorway showing her legs, you wasn't looking the other way neither." I never meant no harm, George. Honest, I never." "Well, you keep away from her, 'cause she's a rat trap if I've ever seen one. You let Curly take the rat. He let himself in for it. Glove full of Vaseline," George said disgustedly. "And I bet he's eating raw eggs and riding to the patent medicine houses." Lenny cried out suddenly. "I don't like this place, George. This ain't no good place. I want to get out of here." "We got to keep it till we get a steak. Can't help it, Lenny. We'll get out just as soon as we can. I don't like it no better than you do." He went back to the table and set out a new solitaire hand. "No, I don't like it," he said. "For 2 bits, I'd shove out of here. If we can just get a few dollars in the poke, we'll shove off and go up the American River and pan gold. We can make maybe a couple of dollars a day there, and we might hit a pocket." Lenny leaned eagerly towards him. "Let's go, George. Let's get out of here. It's mean here." "We gotta stay," George said shortly. "Shut up now. The guys will be coming in."